All right. This is not a ride sharing video. I repeat, this is not a ride sharing video. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Today, we're going to be talking about a tale of two topics. Once again, a very slow news day. We can't argue with that. But we often hear about the woes of the Biden economy. So I want to get on here today and speak to the folks. Primary question being, what is your life like now that President Biden has become president? We're 2 years in. What have you noticed in your life that is so positive or so negative economically that you would never want to see President Biden in office again? Now, obviously, there's a hell of a lot of folks that would talk about the price of goods and services have went up. But are we to the point where perhaps you had to downsize your home, sell your car, you're having a hard time getting something to eat, maybe you've become homeless? Have you been hurting financially to that level during the Biden administration? I'm asking that outlandish question because there are a lot of folks who paint the economy under President Biden to be pretty damn harsh. So I have to ask the folks, what has your life been like financially since President Biden took office compared to, say, President Trump? And the other question I'm going to ask, and I understand I'm going to get a hell of a lot of pushback from it. Nevertheless, that is always welcome on this program. I always make the solemn promise I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their damn commentary. So I understand there's going to be pushback. You're always entitled to do that. Program is and always will remain MAGA friendly for the entirety of the show. So I'm asking this question flat out. Why is there so much hatred towards the LGBT community from the GOP side of the aisle? Particularly the last acronym, LGBT, that last letter. Why does the GOP have such a significant issue with this group of people? Obviously, if you look at the relationship between the transgender community and Democrats, it is like night and day compared to Republicans. Why is that? That's what we're going to be discussing today. As always, tap the screen, get your boy up to 5,000 likes. Always appreciate it. The program is, as it will remain, MAGA friendly all the time. I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. So, looking in the comment section, how much is Donald Trump paying you, says user 48. Hell, if Trump were to pay yours truly, it would probably be to pay my ass to go away. Looking in the comments, yeah, it's the T that brings down that community. Fair enough, but what is the T among the LGBT crowd? What is the T doing that is so horrendous that's bringing down that community? Why is the Republican Party treating them so much differently from the Democratic Party if they're bringing down a community? That's what we're asking. It's a sickness, says Shane Guthrie. LGBT or just a T? What is a sickness? Describe the sickness. I would love to hear more. Because this movement is trying to eradicate women. How many folks out there believe that the transgender community is completely trying to eradicate women? That is a strong statement. What about women that grow up and identify as a man? Would you suggest they're trying to eradicate men? I don't get it, but it's always been that way in regards to the LGBT community, not just the T, but even the L and, but not the L, but the B and the G, talking about the acronyms bi and gay. It's always been harsher treatment towards men that either identify as a woman or are attracted to the same sex. For some reason, women have often got a pass. Even if you are a trans man, where you were originally born a woman and now you identify as a man, you're not going to get anywhere near the backlash when it's done from the opposing gender. Why is that? Going straight to the box. Appreciate you folks. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. We'll start it right out. Sneaker Tool. Good afternoon. And the program. Good afternoon, Sneaker.
Good afternoon. A long time no see.
Good to have you back.
Yeah. So, one, Uh, to answer the first question, my pocket has been fine. The economy itself, um, we've seen if you're not paying attention, companies have gone right out and said that, oh, we're trying to make money back that we lost during the pandemic. Like that
So
was
under
said
the
very
let
bluntly.
me make sure I'm getting you clear. So under the Biden administration, you have not seen any major economic suffering in your own
I,
personal household.
I haven't seen anything dramatic at all.
Fair enough.
Like
Continue.
I've seen yeah, like a few dollars out of the paycheck, but nothing that's like, hey, this has now crippled me. Like no.
So why do you think folks on the right are painting it like it's economic Armageddon? Price of fuel, taxes, price of goods and services. You often hear about eggs. If you listen to folks
Mhm.
on the right, it sounds like everybody's doing horrible. But you're suggesting you're not. Why do you think there's such a
No,
difference?
it's so because I'm not because I'm the kind of person who I'm used to budgeting and planning around and learning the trends on how to do things. If this one thing is expensive, okay, cool. I have to weigh off of that thing until I can figure out a better route around it. Like, and I'm the kind of person who do the work to make sure that I can save money. For example, I have a Sam's Club membership. It's like what, 50 or 40 bucks a year. And instead of
Uh-huh.
everyone paying like 360 for gas, I'm paying 320 for gas. So I legit did what was necessary to make sure that my money will always stay relevant and powerful within a sense.
But let me ask it to you this way: are you financially the same as you were during Trump, better or worse?
Um, I am I was definitely better under Trump because he was cutting more taxes. But at the end of the year, I ended up having to pay more taxes, which is really strange because he cut Social Security and then we ended up having to pay all of that back later. So that definitely did hurt. Other than that, it's nothing. It's if there was a change, it's too small for me to really notice.
Yeah, you're not the
And
only
to
one.
touch on the
You're not the only one I've heard say that.
and to touch on the other point of the discussion, um, trans people are the individuals that the GOP get the most uncomfortable about because um, it's the idea of a man and masculinity, and they feel as if that men one are predators. So that's why they're always so nervous when they see men in women's spaces. So they're thinking that, oh, this person is actually just transitioning into something different. They think this kind of change, because they don't understand it, they fear all of the negative possibilities that could happen. But they also, and women,
So you're saying that the GOP confuses or it conflates LGBT members to be predators, like they're going to abuse people.
yes,
Mm.
so, like, and then occupy women's spaces. When it comes down to just gay and people who are men who are attracted to the same sex, that's just they feel as if that's immoral because masculinity should be attracted to femininity and
Wow.
not just femininity, women in particular. And because you broke that mold and you went against
Yeah.
the natural law of
Fair enough.
things,
All right.
you are now a
Yeah.
bad
Sneaker.
person. And also, I will
Yeah.
say, not everyone thinks like that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. All right. Appreciate you coming in. You're kind of breaking up at the end, but certainly got your point. Appreciate you coming through, man. All right. Looking in the comments, Cuba said enough. Every Trump tart goes right to the Obama Biden because they have anything else. Wow. Okay. So but that's the question we're asking for you folks who are just tuning in. And by the way, tap the screen. The 10,000. You know what I often ask. We got two questions. One is indeed, why does the GOP have such a strong amount of hatred towards the LGBT community? And I can give you a number of reasons why I refer to it that way, but towards the LGBT community, particularly the final acronym of LGBT. Why is there such a hatred towards that community? And the other one is, how has your life changed financially under the Biden administration? We hear that the Biden economy sucks and how much better it was under Trump. But for you as an individual, your personal finances, how much have they been affected? I mean, have you seen no change? Are you making far less than you did under Trump? Or are you seeing more money altogether? Now, my last caller stated the tax changes that Trump imposed had an effect on him as well. So, looking in the comments, not not hate, just stop forcing us to accept LGBT. Well, if you stated I don't hate Mexican people, just stop forcing me to accept them. What's the difference between that and hate? If a Hispanic cannot walk around you because you refuse to accept them, I don't want you in movies. I don't want you teaching kids. I don't want to see you on a beer can. But I don't hate you though. What's the difference? What really is the difference? I don't understand that. Looking in the comments, or better yet, the box. We'll keep it moving. Red G. Back to the program. I am definitely worse off now. Prices of grocery are more expensive. Gas is more expensive. Beer belly. I love the name. That's a lot of us go that way. Reggie, good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on? So I would say financially, I'm doing better, but I have to work a lot harder to do it, just because the price of everything is inflating, the inflation in general. But that's neither here nor there, because I think it was frivolous the way we did money with when COVID came out and we did all those loans and PP. That was ridiculous. So I
So,
think that's kind of an unfair assessment.
do you blame Biden for the rise of inflation? I mean, inflation is global, some would say. Do you hold Biden personally responsible for what the economy has, the amount of inflation, the price at the pump that has happened since he's been president? Do you see that as his fault?
I think it's kind of half and half. I kind of blame Trump a little bit, and I kind of blame Biden a bit because a lot of the stuff that went through during Trump. But I also think that if Trump was still in office, he would be doing a little bit more here and spending less abroad to make sure that was handled. And I also think he would lower taxes a bit, which is also another form of padding. But I wanted to talk about the trans thing
Okay,
because
I'll let you get into that, but before you do, so you're suggesting that if Trump was president, you do think the economy would be better.
nationally, yeah.
Is that enough? Because you have admitted that things have went up and you got to work a hell of a lot more to achieve the same financially. Is the fact that the economy would be better under Trump enough of an issue that would lead you to vote for Trump in 2024?
If it's Trump versus Biden, I either won't vote or I'll vote Trump.
Why would you, if you strongly believe that Trump could get the economy back on course, why would you hesitate to pick him over Biden to begin with? It should just be guaranteed Trump, right?
Internationally, so 'cause I don't think he'll run with Pence. He would have to find somebody else, and I just don't
No, he ain't gonna run with
see.
Pence. Pence is done.
Yeah,
Yeah, he ain't gonna run with Pence. That's for sure.
I just don't see him coming. I think Trump needs to like experience more government to be like a good president. I think that if he experienced more, because he's totally inexperienced. So where Biden has 40 years of being in government, Trump has like four, and they were all president, and that's kind of crazy. But
Yeah,
that
but
being
think
said,
about what you just said, though. You're saying Trump is inexperienced with only 4 years in office. You're admitting Biden was in office his entire adult life, but you're saying also that Trump, with his inexperience, gave you a better economy.
I think Trump is better than Biden. I'll just say that plainly, so that's out there. But I think that Trump would be better than the Trump that we're experiencing if he had more experience. Because
Oh
like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if you guys remember, but it was like a sideshow watching everybody get fired from the White House. I think the turnover rate was as high as McDonald's. Like that was crazy. So
So
I just
based
think
on
he
his
just
performance, do you think Trump is worthy of a second term, or do you think the lack of experience is enough to also sour you to him too?
I would literally rather we got somebody else, but if it's Biden versus Trump, I would pick Trump.
All right, fair enough. LGBT, go ahead.
So I think the weird thing about this T is that it's more of an identity, where the LGB is more of a sexuality. And so that when they're parading around this identity, it's like it's kind of weird for us because it's not that we're not accepting them. You can go around and go to Walmart and go to Target and do whatever you want. Is that when you sit here and try to force me to say, hey, you're this or hey, you're that, and then so not only are you policing my words, but you're also policing my thoughts because you want me to actually think that you are whatever you want to be because there's not really a limit to it. So that with the gender fluid thing, oh, I'm a man now, or now I'm a woman, or now that is just a ridiculous thing to try to cope with or deal with, like in reality. So I think that we got to get some definitions of things going so that everything that you don't like isn't transphobic, and then
So, but
then we can have
how,
a serious conversation.
when you say they're forcing you to, address them and forcing all this on you, how is that happening by simply putting a transgender person on a Bud Light can? That's not forcing you to do anything. Yet there was a huge backlash.
Right. So I think the backlash was just kind of Bud Light has
Hatred?
always been like that conservative dude beer. Like you sit there with your American flag and drink your Budweiser. So I feel like they just kind of felt betrayed by that. So
Well, what's the difference between feeling betrayed and having a hatred? I mean, you got a well-known celebrity like Kid Rock out there with a machine gun shooting Bud Light cans. I mean, how is that not hatred?
because I don't think that it's rooted in hate. I think that it's just like out of all of this support that we've been giving you, we've been overwhelmingly supporting this business for like decades. And then you go and do that, then it's just like, okay, well, you're not trying to support us. You're not trying to support our children. You're not trying to support our values. You're trying to support those values. And so that's why, in the same way that you can burn your Nike stuff because Colin Kaepernick took a knee, it's the same stupidity.
Yeah. So if let's take a network like BET, Black Entertainment Television, if they were to feature an all-white show like Friends or Family Ties or something, and black folks were to go ape shit for the same reason you said with Bud Light. We've been supporting you. This is an African American network, like Bud Light is a macho man's beer, as you're saying. Wouldn't we see that as hatred? If they went ape
No,
shit,
no,
we would not see that.
because it wouldn't be saying, "Oh, I hate Friends." If you put Friends on BET, we'll be saying, "Yo, BET, this is supposed to be our platform. You're supposed to be supporting us." It's not saying I hate Friends or I hate them. It's just that saying you're supposed to be uplifting us. This is the one thing that's for us.
Okay, so you see Bud Light has been a can of beer for alpha men or something like that.
Just it's just kind of a conservative thing. Well,
All
when you
right.
look at like, so if you look at like liberals and the hipsters and all that, they drink their IPAs and fancy all that shit. That's who they support. It's just kind of been this dichotomy that's just kind of been there, and then they kind of just crossed over.
Yeah, I've never thought of a beverage as a man or a woman. I guess I don't drink alcohol at all, so maybe that puts me in. I'm ignorant on the topic, but I guess if you're drinking a Shirley Temple out in the club somewhere, I guess that could be considered as a female drink. But I've never, picked up a Coke or a Pepsi and thought this is a man's soda. It is what it is. It's just a beverage. I just never seen it though. I would never shoot a can of Coke because they put the wrong person on the can.
And I mean, I definitely think they overreacted. The Kid Rock thing. I think he just did that for show. I'm from Michigan, and I've seen Kid Rock at like drag shows, so I already know like he's acting out.
Really?
So yeah.
Okay. All
He's
right.
friends
Well,
with that famous drag that person. I don't even know what they refer to themselves as, but
speaking of drag shows, before I let you go, I mean, because you talked about the trans force down people's throat and things like that. They're also preventing like pride parades and things like that out in the open. Why is that?
um I mean, so I believe that there's a place for that. So if you want to have your Pride Month, Pride Parade, or Parents' Day, they were upset about Mother's Day apparently. You can have your time, but you don't need to take it from somebody else's time. And in the same way that I think you should be able to have drag shows, I don't think it should be in schools. I think schools should be teaching education. But there's a place and time for all of that, and I don't think that that's hate to say, oh hey, I don't want your this on that time. I don't want Mother's Day, Parents' Day on Mother's Day. I don't want you can have your time on your time. We got a whole year. Let's spread it out.
So let me ask you, in regards to you saying they should be teaching education as opposed to, LGBT or drag issues. Now you identify as conservative, you lean right. Am I correct?
I lean socially democratic, economically conservative, I would say.
Okay. Because I guess the question I would ask, a lot of folks on the right believe that this country would be better off returning prayer to schools. How do you feel about that after suggesting we should stick to education in schools?
I wouldn't call it prayer. If you wanted to have time to like pray or meditate or just some like a moment of free time, like a couple minutes, I think that would be okay. I think calling it prayer would be a mistake. But I also think that's kind of a waste of time because you can do that at home. So yeah.
What about the Ten Commandments? Governor Greg Abbott in Texas is trying to pass a law that requires all public schools in Texas to prominently display in a high place of visibility. I'm actually getting a quote. In all Texas public schools being required to display the Ten Commandments. Would you support that?
And the commandments and the sense of the Bible, or just the words? Because I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal.
What
But if
about
we're
what
gonna
about
make
thou
it,
shalt? What about the third one? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Do you think elementary school children need to be told not to cheat on their wife?
no, I think we could probably leave that out of the school. I thought I would say you could probably leave that one alone.
All right, fair enough.
I
I just
think a
want to
lot
make
of this
sure.
stuff is just for show. I think they're just trying to show out and trying to, gather their fan base so they can get votes.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, if you don't want children to be indoctrinated or educated, or given something outside of education, the outrage should come from both sides. And there's very little outrage to what Texas Governor Abbott is doing, trying to force all kids to have to look at the Ten Commandments. There's no outrage for that, like the drag queens and all this other stuff. So, you talk about not being in favor of indoctrination, not being in favor of teaching children about sexuality, then teaching children about committing adultery should also be excluded as well. So I just want to point it out that it seems like there's a bit of hypocrisy there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and both parties. We see it every day. But I think the major thing that we need to take from this is that we need to be taking a look at these people and the things that they're doing one by one, not by the party, but by the person, because a lot of this shit is for show. And when people are showing out like that, they're showing you who you are, who they are, and you need to judge them based on that. So it's like, okay, well, if you want to put the Ten Commandments in school, what other weirdo things are you trying to teach kids? So I think we got to really take a look at it and not just give them a pass because they're on our side or whatever. Because I think that's the main problem that we're having. That's how we get a situation like Trump and Joe Biden.
Tribalism. Good talk. Appreciate you coming in and read.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, looking in the comments, religion is the ultimate indoctrination, says Daryl Kiloan. I don't disagree. There's a hell of a lot of indoctrination from religion. If you do not see religion as indoctrinating followers, then yeah, you're kind of being biased. Tanner Alves, I cannot pronounce the name, but you have HBCU graduates saying Biden and Harris don't care about them, which is true. You're going to have graduates of every higher learning institution in America saying that Biden and Harris don't care about them. You're going to find plenty of them that say the same thing about Trump and Pence. I mean, fact is, if you are the commander in chief of a country of over 300 plus million, with about 350 million, there's going to be people that think you don't give a shit about them. For instance, you think the LGBT community believes the GOP gives a damn about them? So that doesn't surprise me that you got some black people, HBCU graduates, that feel like Biden and Kamala Harris don't care about them. You got some of them that said Obama didn't care about them. Trump received more African American votes than certainly all of the Republican presidents in our lifetime, talking about Reagan, both Bushes, and things like that. But at the end of the day, the African American vote overwhelmingly still goes left. Look it in the comments. By the way, tap the screen, get your boy up to 20,000 likes. Feel free to let your thumbs not be lazy. I do appreciate it. White people have to depend on the government. Pull your own weight, says Clarence. You know, I don't disagree with that. I don't think that most Americans are dependent on the government. Certainly when you look at how our government provides for its citizens compared to other first world countries, clearly most Americans are not dependent on the government. So I don't know if I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's happening. They go left because liberals use race as a political tactic to decide. I don't know if just the liberals use race as a political tactic. You're going to tell me you don't see any of that from the GOP. I'm going to tell you as a person who really enjoys watching right-wing media just as much as left. In fact, I watch more right-wing media than left. Been watching Fox News probably since the late 90s. And I can tell you for a fact, my attitude towards African Americans has changed significantly just from watching so much right-wing media. It's pretty damn anti-black. Just going to be honest with you, when you start talking about the left using racism as a tactic, I see that on both sides of the aisle. I could totally understand if I have no communication with the African American community and I sit and watch a lot of right-wing media, how I might want to shoot somebody of African American descent if they came on my porch in the middle of the night. I could totally understand that because we look like criminals all over the damn country. I could totally understand it. Going back to the box, God. That is the name of my next guest. God. I want to know, why does God,
Hello.
God,
God
good
has arrived.
God, how you doing?
Good, good. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I want to get on my knees and pray to you. So we're talking
Yeah,
about GOP hatred towards the LGBT community or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. And we're talking about
that's
how has your life changed financially since President Biden became the commander in chief?
this is excellent questions. Well, I'm Republican. I definitely believe in the LGBTQ community. Let's get Biden to quit. I'm strong into that. LGBTQ is important for all Republicans. Let's get Biden to quit. That's what it means. And I love it. I love it. Hey,
All right.
Jewel. Yeah, definitely. It snuggles here,
Why
guy.
why is there such a push? Why is there such a push by your side of the aisle against saying pride parades and drag queen shows? Why do they hate that so much?
Uh, they don't hate the fact that there is gay people in the world. I think that's a fact. That's already been established. Even gay people are getting upset that it's getting pushed on children. It's not the fact that
So
people are gay.
what if
It's the
having
fact that
a
they're
pride
pushing it on children.
having a pride parade, you believe that's pushing the life on children? Because they
No, no,
banned
no, no,
that.
no, no. Pride
They
parade is
banned
out.
pride parades
Pride,
in
pride
places.
parades have been going a long time. It's been
Yeah, and
going
they
a long
banned
time.
them. There
What
are
we're
places
talking
that are
about is pushing it into the school system. That's what people are upset about. We don't need to push it on our
so
kids.
so if you want to have a public pride parade or a public drag queen show where the parents have the option of not taking their children there, how is that pushing it on children?
Um, Transitioning children in schools is a $65 billion industry to use hormone therapy drugs on children. Okay, it's a $65 billion industry. Nobody's worried about anybody being gay. The fact of the matter is they want to push it on children without parents' permission in some states, and that's just the way it's going. Okay, that's what people don't like, whether you're
What, what,
Democrat
what,
or Republican. It
what do
shouldn't.
you mean by you mentioned? What do you mean by pushing it on kids? Telling children about something. It's a difference
Correct.
between pushing. Do you see the schools that's trying to force this lifestyle and make a child become
Absolutely.
transgender?
In some states, you don't need the parents' permission to transition in
Yeah, but
schools.
That's not the school pushing it on them. That's the school.
Absolutely, it is. I don't know if you're blinded, but I mean, you need to do a little more research on that, Handsome. It is being pushed in the schools because pharmaceutical companies, you can even look it up, pharmaceutical companies, it's potentially a $65 billion industry.
So let me ask you to you from this standpoint. Let's say I'm a child in school and I'm straight. I like girls. I go to a school that does everything you're talking about. How is
Correct.
that pushing it on me? What are they doing to push that on me? You're right. They're allowing me, if I wanted to be transgender,
God darn
they're
it.
allowing me to do that without notifying the parents. But I'm a
Correct.
straight kid. I don't want nothing to do with it. How is it pushing it on me?
Well, start watching the news a little bit, and you'll see the push. I do have a customer, damn it. We'll get more into this, but yeah, I believe that they should just, if you do a little more research on what they're doing in the schools, it's really
I'm
and
trying. My research is coming up empty. Talk to you later, though.
okay, yeah, thanks, bro. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Looking in the comments, somebody says Snuggles is a liar. Wow. It's your name, my bad. All right. Jennifer says, or better yet, Tam Lee in the shadow says, I am a teacher. I don't see that happening. I don't get it. I mean, I just do not understand how exposing a child to transgendered issues is actually pushing it on the child. I mean, if you're straight, you're straight. I've asked this question to guests before. It's going to sound harsh, but this is the way I've always rap or phrase it. How many dicks do I have to show you to make you want one? You're not going to want one if you're a straight person, no matter how many of them you see. I don't get how folks believe that if you show a child something that they are not, it's going to entice the child to become that. I just do not see that. But this is what we're being told is you're pushing it on the kids, and somehow if you expose children to transgender folks, they're going to want to become it. Yeah, for the life of me, I don't see it. Nevertheless, we're going to continue on. Your age and maturity are different than children. I knew from a long time ago that I didn't like dick. I mean, at 5 years old, I would have said ew from the age of 5. So how far back you got to go? I just don't see it. It's not that I'm a 50-year-old guy that makes me now quite confident that I don't want to be dick down. I knew that at 5. So I don't quite get that. All right, going back to the box. Guys out here trying to dick me down. All right, continuing on. Lady Jade, good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Assuming it lets you on. There we go. Lady Jade, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. The question we're trying to find out, do you see any hatred towards the LGBT community from the Republican Party?
Hatred?
Dislike, phobia, you put in the synonym.
I feel there is a dislike. I won't say a phobia or a hatred. I feel there is a dislike for that community because that is an out of balance view from the Republican perspective, right? Because Republicans are more traditional in value when it comes to the family structure. Their view does not entail that of the LGBTQ plus community, right? It's just not the structural norm for the family, the household, or the balance that is the man and the woman established in a family, right?
Yeah,
So
but
I
what if I
feel
wanted,
for it.
yeah, but if you're going with traditional values, what if I wanted a white wife? What if I suddenly was attracted to cougars? None of that stuff is traditional. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to force tradition on us, what would tradition be, looking at the founding fathers, a 30-year-old with a
That doesn't
17-year-old?
No, I understand that completely, but that doesn't push against the norm of sexuality, right? You're a black man, and you would want to date or be with a white woman. That pushes the, you know, identity of, race and things of that nature, but not overall sexuality, not the nature of the couple and them being out of balance with procreation. Republicans have a stricter opinion on what the family structure should look like, and they may be more accepting of a racial difference versus an actual difference in sexuality, where it's like these two men want to be together. They want us to respect their union. They want us to allow their union to be taught in schools because it is taught in schools. I didn't believe it until I saw it myself, because last year my youngest daughter, who at the time was 7, in June brought home a lanyard gay flag that they made in class, and it wasn't presented to us parents prior to. They're very good at communicating different projects and assignments that the kids are involved in, but they didn't communicate that. And my youngest came home with this flag, and I thought, oh, okay, are they working on the chakra colors? What is this? Until I flipped it upside down and realized, wait a minute, we're in the month of June here. This
Yeah,
is a
but
gay
wait,
flag.
hold on. Do you think a teacher allowing children to make the pride flag, rainbow flag, or whatever, do you think that is somehow pushing LGBT issues on
Oh,
children?
absolutely, because they're involving them in an action of decision making without the presence of their parent for guidance in their immediate space. Yes, it is, because they're giving them the opportunity to work on this particular project, piece, or item that has to do with sexuality. At no point should anyone other than the family structure be at the forefront of having that conversation about sexuality with the child. It's not the responsibility of the school system, the teacher, or anyone outside of the household to be responsible for having that conversation. An 8-year-old does not need a conversation about sexuality from their teacher. If they have questions about sexuality, they need to come to their home. That needs to happen at the home base. Kids need to feel more grounded at home and safe enough to have those conversations. But at the same time, no, it's not the position of the school or the teacher to interject that conversation and give them. They're planting the
Wait a
seed
minute,
in
though.
these
How
children.
does
They
Here's where
plant
I'm
the
confused. How does making a flag, the rainbow flag, that is a tribute to the gay community, how is that promoting sexuality on your kid, and how is that harmful
so
to the
glad you
child?
asked. I'm so glad you said it that way, because of the consciousness. It's the form of consciousness that's being blossomed at that time. Any child that knows the simple current events questions of who, what, where, why, when, at that time when they're creating that flag is going to be, listen, the door is open just then. Just then. And somebody in the comments said that most people don't feel comfortable, or maybe kids don't feel comfortable having that conversation at home. That's fine. That's fine. If they can't get it at home, they got to get it somewhere else. Maybe the source is the teacher at that time, but parents need to have the ability to be able to say yes or no. Talk to my child about this. But the fact that they're working on that project, any child could be like, oh, what is this? Why are we doing this? What do these colors mean? What do these colors stand for? Oh, it's representing gay love. What's gay love? What's gay relationships? Teachers don't need to have that conversation per se with the child.
How
And
is it
I
harmful though?
respect the
How is
lifestyle,
it? How is it
but
if the child is allowed to make a rainbow flag in honor of the gay community without the parents' consent? How is that harmful to the child?
because they are being indoctrinated. That's an indoctrination, especially under the age of 12. That is an indoctrination. They've been presented with this item, this physical, tangible thing that they can create, hold in their hand, and then begin to question, what is the nature of this? What does this mean? Who, what, where, why, when? Once you break
So
down
you
those
believe
questions,
you believe exposing children to LGBT issues can make them become gay?
I don't believe that it can make them, but it can cause them to question their own identity and sexuality. They may not even know that two women can be together or two men can be together until they see that gay flag and go, wait, so two people, wait a minute, hold up now. They can question. They didn't know anything otherwise. They saw mommy and daddy. They saw auntie and uncle. They saw grandma and grandpa. They didn't know that Aunt June and Aunt Jane could be together. They didn't know that Uncle
But,
Steve and
but
Uncle
here's
Tom
here's the
had such
problem
fun.
with here's
And
where
I'm not judging, but I gotta go back to work. I'm so sorry. I don't have more time. Listen, You got to invite me back in here one of these days. You're so popular in the TikTok streets here, honey.
Anytime. My door is always open to you. Enjoy your day at work.
Hey,
Come on back.
thank you. Take care. Thank you for the gift.
Absolutely. Anytime. Man, that was a good conversation. Now, I had a hell of a lot more questions to ask. Listen, I lean left. I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their opinion. So the fact that someone may disagree with the host on this program never means a damn thing. Feel free to come in the box without any fear of being blocked, limited your time, or censored anything. We don't do that here. Everybody's First Amendment free speech rights are always protected. However, I did want to have some more. I definitely had a lot more questions to ask that last guest. But nevertheless, the audience continues. Judgment will come until the day what one cannot see appears. Trevor, I don't quite get that. That one sounds like a riddle. Same thing with religion, yeah. They got you, handsome. Ruby Louise. Am I being dicked down? What do you mean they got me? Clearly doesn't understand what actual indoctrination is. I want to say this before I go back to the box. I'll bring up another guest. In regards to children being indoctrinated, the best example I often give, because this is something all of us can relate to. If you went to school in America, 70s, 80s, 90s, probably still today, we all can relate to putting your hand on your heart and saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. The reason I'm bringing that up is simple. How many children in elementary school can even recite or define what it means to pledge allegiance to an actual nation? Most kids have no idea what that means, yet they're required to stand, face the flag, and do that. That is indoctrination. It just happens to be indoctrination that we like. That is indoctrinating patriots. You're trying to basically force patriotism on children. You're making them face the flag. You're making them pledge allegiance to the country in hopes that when they turn 17, 18, when they have to register for the selective service, they will feel that love for country. We agree with it, but it is indoctrination. Certainly when you got them putting their hands on their heart and repeating a phrase, talking about the Pledge of Allegiance, where they couldn't even explain what the hell it means. How many elementary school children know what it means to pledge allegiance to an actual country? So if you want to talk about, I don't want my child being indoctrinated, be honest with yourself. I don't want to be indoctrinated in regards to LGBT issues. Some of these other issues, I actually agree with those, so I'm okay with it. So it's not indoctrination. That is why the whole program is titled Hatred Towards That Community. Because other folks can indoctrinate your children and you're okay with it. Police department came to our school all the time. Had a lot of us growing up saying we wanted to be a police officer. We didn't go to school to learn about cops, reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what I was told. And why the hell is the police or the fire department up here? You're trying to change the mindset of a child. You wouldn't want a drag queen at your school. You need parental consent for that. What if I happen to be a Black Panther or something that has a negative attitude toward police? Should I be able to prevent the cops from coming to school and talking to the kids? I'm a fan of police officers, but I'm just simply saying, if you only see an issue with it on one side and not the other, you're being biased. All right, going back to the box. Tap the screen, get your boy up to 35,000, like 700 plus of you in here. Could be anywhere you want to be on this damn app. The fact that you're rolling with your boy is always an honor. Shar B. Good afternoon. Welcome to Shar. Talking about potentially indoctrinating children by the simple presence of the LGBT community. Do you see any hatred from the GOP
Of course.
towards this community?
Of course. I don't think a lot of people realize the coded language that's being used when
Elaborate. Give me some examples of coded language.
you'll hear a lot of conservatives, even on your platform, they'll come up here and say, I believe trans people should have rights. I believe trans people should have a right to exist, but that's it. Don't push it on my kids. Don't push it on me. They don't think that they should have to respect people. That's the same argument that racist white people used to make for black people. Black people deserve the same rights, but I don't want them in my neighborhoods. I don't want them at the same school as my kids. This is the same type of argument that's still happening. They don't see religion as indoctrination. They don't see raising kids to be nationalists as indoctrination. If they really cared about kids, they would be focused on how many kids are going to school hungry, how many kids don't even have like the proper desks, the proper school books, the teacher is overworked, the neighborhoods they live in. They don't care about nothing else. I'm queer. I'm a part of the community, right? And I'm going to say for
You
myself,
know, by simply admitting you're part of the community, you're going to have a credibility issue with a lot of the artists. They're going to automatically say, "Well, you're just speaking in regards to the fact that you're part of the community."
yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
I don't care. But I don't want your snot nosed kids. Like I really don't. Like I really don't. In the
Let
whole
me
thought
interrupt
process.
you. I'll let you continue, but you are the Q in the LGBTQ. Explain for us ignorant folks, and I am one of them. What does queer mean?
Queer
And
is a
and, and better yet, for my GOP folks, why does a child even need to know about that? I want you to clear that up.
Yeah, queer is an umbrella term, so it encompasses everybody that's a part of the community. So whether you're trans, whether you're bi, lesbian, gay, pansexual, asexual, it encompasses all of us.
So
Yeah, so
you
I just
having a
think it's
lot of
cool.
fun, basically. You could be
No, 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 no,
anything.
no, no, no.
Wait a minute.
No, it doesn't mean that I'm all of that. I'm just saying it's an umbrella term, so I don't always have to explain exactly what letter I am of the community. Because, like a lot of people say, they don't care about what happens in our bedroom. So if you don't, I just call myself queer. You don't need to know what I am, right? I'm just a part of the
Okay, so in
community.
other words, you like Malcolm X. You just don't want me to know your last name.
Exactly.
Okay, all
Exactly.
right.
You
But
don't need to know all of that.
but in reality, you are actually one of them. You're LGB or T. You just don't want nobody to know, so you're putting a Q down there.
I'm not T, but I'm something else. But it's nobody's business, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but I think like this misconception of if you introduce kids, like letting them know that that like a gay person exists, somebody has two dads, two moms, or somebody is trans, that doesn't, it may pique a kid's curiosity, but like you said earlier, no matter how many gay couples you show a kid, if that kid is straight, that's not going to deter that kid. Just because a kid may have a natural curiosity about something, that can't sway someone's sexuality, right? Someone's
But I
sexuality is
gotta,
what.
I'm always capable of playing devil's advocate, even though I lean left and I support the community. I have to ask you because you're using words like curiosity.
Mhm,
If I had a child that I was confident would never indulge in drugs, would
mhm.
I still want somebody around them that make pique their curiosity in
About
drugs?
drugs.
Yeah. Because if it's something I feel is harmful, you're saying it's not going to change it, but it may pique their curiosity. A lot of folks feel like that alone is a danger to the child in regards to piquing their curiosity. As
But
my
I think
last guest stated, they wouldn't even know about this until you came along and started piquing their curiosity. Do you
But I
see any
think
issue
that's
with that?
I think that's something different. Having them around somebody that does drugs is a lot different, right? That could cause an immediate negative impact. Most of these people that are against teaching like that trans people or gay people exist, 9 times out of 10 they don't know any trans people. The kid is not gonna look at somebody and be like, "Oh, that's a trans woman, that's a trans man." It's just teaching kids that different people exist. Every household doesn't look like your mom and dad, right? Some people come from a single parent household. Some people have two dads. Some people have two moms, right? When you are a little older, you can't always look at somebody and perceive them like, whatever you perceive them as, that's not what they actually are, right? So what, like, my kid is about to be in kindergarten. I don't teach my kid about like, oh, hey, you could be gay, or this is what gay people do. What I teach her is that people have different type of families, right? And that sometimes when you go and you meet somebody, You just say like, "Hi, what's your name?" You don't, because what my kid started doing, she would just automatically look at somebody and be like, "Oh, hey, that's a woman," and she'd be like, "Hi, ma'am," and sometimes she doesn't always get it correct, right? So I just want her to go up to people, ask their name. If they say like, "Hey, my pronouns are," my kid doesn't know the difference. She's just gonna call you what you want to be called. I'm just teaching my kid to like basically have a level of respect for anybody. If there is a
But
kid at
can't
her school,
that can't that become a case of don't believe your lying eyes? I mean, if I'm looking at Jennifer Aniston, that's a woman. I mean, I can't imagine Jennifer Aniston saying my
people,
pronoun is him. And
but
I
people,
mean, it gets to the point where it affects your eyes. You don't see where somebody could say that.
but that's a problem. Like with race, that's the thing, right? Because race is based on how other people perceive you. But your gender is something that's in your mind. It's your gender identity, something that's created in your brain. So you can't base someone's pronouns or their gender off of what you perceive them as. Just because like one day I may not shave, right? I have PCOS and I may walk out and I may have a full beard. That doesn't mean that somebody could like should, say, "Hey, sir." Like if they do, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm saying like all the time, you can't like just go off what you see. And if you do, if someone corrects you, why is it just like such a huge issue? Why can't you take the correction that they identify as something different and respect them as that? I don't understand what's the huge uproar about it.
Well, because it to some degree, and I'm coming at you from a left, but I had somebody go off on me because I didn't refer to them as they, and even though I was trying, I kept slipping. It's because listen, I'm an old guy. My school days are long over, and I was taught that they is plural. For instance, if you're beating the hell out of me and I call for help and I say I need somebody to come over here, they kicking my ass and they show up and it's only you, they may let me get my ass kicked. You told me it was they. It's just this one person. You lied to me. So fact is, we were taught something
But
for
we
so
weren't
long one way. We're not used to having to switch. It's kind of an old dog new trick type deal.
we weren't
That's
always
why
we
you're getting
weren't
the
but
resistance.
we weren't all taught like that, right? Because I was always taught that they is both plural and singular. Sometimes when you ask, like if somebody in the chat is like somebody named Ashley, all of the time you're not gonna say, "Hey, where did Ashley go? Hey, where did she go? Hey, where did they just go?" You refer to
But
a
you never
singular
get it to
person.
their face. You never look somebody right in the face and refer to them as they. Yeah, if they're
Yeah,
not
but we
around, they went that way or something. You don't never look somebody right in the face and say, they or there. Or, I mean, it just doesn't fit. It seems like it's a huge grammatical error.
so if
I
you
would have
could
failed
use
every
it,
English class.
So if you could use it when they're not there, you should have no problem in correcting yourself when they ask you to refer to them as that in their face. If you're going to use it when they're gone, how does it affect you if somebody say, "Hey, my pronouns are they them"? How
No,
does
I
that
don't.
affect you? I
I don't disagree with you. I'm just simply coming at you from an old dog, new tricks. Like if I tried to get you to refer to me as white, for instance, it's going to take a long time. It almost sounds like a cat that's barking because you've been taught one way for your entire life. And then all of a sudden, there's some big changes to the way you learned English. This is completely different stuff for us.
But see, when you bring in race, it's different because race is based on your phenotype. No matter how hard you try to be, you can never be a white man. I can never be a white woman. Even though race isn't biological, it's based on how other people's perceive you, who you look like. So your head shape, your nose, your lips, your skin color. That's why you're called black, right? That's why I'm called black. We there's
But the
not much
dick
we
doesn't make you a guy. That's where folks
no
are
because it
confused.
makes
You're talking about my hair, I got larger lips and things like that. Those features make you an African American. It'd be hard to identify you as
it makes
white.
us
But
black,
the
not
dick
African
doesn't make me
American.
a dude. I can still be a woman with the dick. That
It
you
make
see what I'm
wait,
saying?
wait, let me correct you. It makes us black, not African American, right? Because not all black people are African American. And you having a penis, that's you being a male. Your gender and your sex is not always aligned. Gender is not biological. Sex is what you're born with. You're born a male or female. You don't have to check the box of having a certain appendage to be a certain gender. Gender is a social construct that society made up, and whoever fits in those constructs, that's how you're labeled.
So male and man are not synonyms.
Not always. You don't have to check the box of male to be a man. If you identify with what society labels as a man, you can label yourself a man. It's not biological. That it your gender is based on your brain. Does that
So if
make
the
sense? Like
cops
if you
No,
Oh,
no,
sorry, go
I
ahead.
gotta admit, I'm confused as hell, but I'm trying to learn here. I gotta admit, if a police officer yelled in the radio, I'm running from a robbery chasing a suspect. It's a black female, and then all of a sudden we catch up and it's Shaquille O'Neal. That's gonna look weird to me. You said you were chasing a woman. This dude is 7'8", 7'3" with a dick. So it's weird to follow these new terms because, like I said, when the police are chasing someone, they got to yell in the radio to describe what they're chasing. And
But
under the
but
LGBT descriptions, what they yell in the radio, nobody is going to try to catch that person because it doesn't match what you just said. You said you're chasing they. Where are the other suspects? It's just one dude.
so
So
when
it,
so
it
when
just
So when a cop is calling over the radio, right? If they're chasing one person, they're obviously going to use a singular term. They're going to say a man or a woman, whatever they perceive that person as. That doesn't mean they're always correct, but they're going to look at, just like when you call the police, right? You're going to look at what that person appear as. You're going to look at me as a black woman. You may not always be correct, but the cops are going to know what to look for because you described how I look. But
okay,
that
fair.
doesn't. I, I,
So let me ask you this: with your own label is queer. Does that mean you can use either restroom? How does that work?
No, I'm a woman. I'm not trans. I'm a female, and I identify. I'm a cisgendered woman. Like I was born female. I'm a
So
woman.
but you
I,
said
I
queer in the beginning. You didn't say
queer is
woman.
an
You said queer.
queer is an umbrella term.
It is complicated. I'm just going to tell you, Shar. Even for somebody who is an ally, I consider myself an ally of the community. It is very complicated. I'm asking you questions, you answering them like that, and I'm still confused as hell. It
Sorry.
is complicated.
Okay. So queer is an umbrella term. Under queer, you could be anything under that community, right? That means I could be bisexual, I could be lesbian. What I told you is that I am not trans, right? That doesn't mean that I'm everything under the community. It means I'm one or the other. I don't all the time have to tell somebody what exactly as I am because you guys, you straight people,
Why
always
hide
tell
it?
us that you don't care. Why hide it? Because straight people always tell us they don't care what we do in the bedroom. So if you don't care, I don't have to identify what part of the community that I am, like, that I fall up under.
But it
You guys
doesn't have
don't
anything.
care.
But it doesn't have anything to do with the bedroom. I identify as a man. That doesn't mean I'm fucking.
So if
It's
I
been
told you
minutes for me.
so if I
I
told you
don't.
that I was a lesbian, that would mean I what? That you would know what I like in the bedroom, right?
That
If
don't mean
it
you're getting it though. I mean, you just might be attracted to women.
Oh my
I'm
God.
confused. I
It-
gotta admit, I am confused. That's all I'm saying. I don't fault you at all for trying to explain it. I do applaud you for taking the time to do this, but you know, after 50 years of life, this is, I mean, 80% of my life, this stuff was never talked about. And my education years are over with. So it is hard to understand all of this stuff.
yeah, can I ask you a question? Because people in your,
Sure.
the Republicans in your comments are really weird. Has anything I said to you feels like I want to push anything on kids or that I come off as a child predator?
No. And that's one of
Okay.
the problems is that a lot of folks, particularly on the right, confuse the LGBT community with sexual predators. That, you're going to all of a sudden use these avenues to abuse kids. There's been LGBT folks around us from day one. There's always been folks from those communities, and that they don't have a huge history of abusing children. If that was the case, then you wouldn't want Catholics around your kids at all, because they do have a history. So I don't like confusing your community or the LGBT community with predators of children, because I believe that's unwarranted.
Yeah, that's just weird. Like I would
Yeah.
never. I don't assume all people that go to church are all Catholics are like groom kids. Like you guys
No,
are
but
just
they do
weird.
have the Catholic Church does have a far greater history of doing it than the LGBT community. I
Yeah,
can tell you
and I
that.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I'm saying I would never see a Catholic man and be like, oh, I think he grooms kids just because he's Catholic. So I think it's weird that people in the comments, just because I said I'm a part of the community, they are literally tagging me, calling me a child groomer, or saying that I like kids. So like it's just weird. And when we talk, that's why when those other two guests got up here and they say they don't see hatred coming from the right, the people in the comments that are right leaning are showing it in the comments. So we
Yeah.
cannot say that hatred doesn't exist coming from the right. We cannot say
Well,
that. But I've
it's
taken up enough
hatred.
of your time.
Hey,
I'm gonna
good
drop.
talk. Listen, you may have confused the hell out of me and most of my guests, but I'm glad you came on and told your side. Come on back anytime.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. All I can really suggest is it's going to be a hell of a learning curve. Now, although I admit I'm confused, I'm not resistant to learning it. The problem is some people are resistant to learning it, and I don't even want to fucking know about it. That's what some people are. I don't mind learning about it. It is just very confusing. My own daughter has often called me, phobic and things like that. I'm like, I don't want to be this way. I just got to learn this stuff. It's all new. It's new math. The way you're coming up with 2 times 2 equals 4 is not the way I was taught that same equation is done. You're doing new math. Give me time. All right, looking in the comments. Laugh my the right saying both sides. Yeah. Why should we have to learn if we don't care? That's a good question. I don't know if you should. I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I don't know. Maybe you don't need to learn it, I suppose. I don't see any issue with you refusing to learn about the transgender community. It is what it is, but understand, if you have a problem with indoctrination, if a child says, I don't want to learn the words to the national anthem, or I don't want to pledge allegiance to the flag, don't hate on that kid either. That's all I'm saying. If you don't want indoctrination of children and things like that, be fair about it. Don't be right-winged about it. I'm fine with indoctrination when it's a right-wing supported cause, then you're not being unbiased. You're being biased in favor of what you care about. They don't care, but they're here talking about it. Courtney, I can't argue with that. Just learn tolerance, says Joe. And that's one of the problems that I personally have an issue with. Folks suggest, well, I don't really hate the community, just don't shove it down my throat. What that really translates to is, don't exist around me. You can be whatever you want to be. I don't want to see you on TV. I don't want to see you at the park. I don't want you around my kids. I don't want you on beer cans. You can exist, just not really in my world. If I come across you in my world, I'm going to have a problem with you. That's hatred. That is hatred. You can define it any way you want to, but if you have a problem with them existing anywhere in your world, then that's hatred. You can exist, just don't be in my vision. I don't want you anywhere in my life. And that's hatred. What's the difference between that and hatred? All right, looking in the box. Appreciate you folks. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 50,000 likes. It's really the subject that doesn't seem to end, because these folks, I don't know if I would say they're fighting for their very existence, but there are people who would rather this community goes away. So it is what it is. Keeping it moving, we'll go straight to Jay Glass. Appreciate you holding on, folks. Now, I'm asking that question, why is there so much hatred towards the LGBT community, particularly the last acronym, the T? We also asked about, has your life changed significantly since President Biden took office? Financially, has your finances took a major hit, went up, you done better financially, or has they remained the same since President Biden took office? Looks like my last guess, either TikTok is not letting them in or something of that nature. By the way, if this is what you enjoy, civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle, I implore you to follow the program. We're here Monday through Friday. You see the hat. The program always will remain MAGA friendly. Yeah, I lean left, but I make it clear, I do solemnly believe Republicans, conservatives, and particularly MAGA, do not often get a fair shake in the media. So the whole purpose of the hat is to let folks know here, your First Amendment free speech rights will always be observed, whether or not you agree with the host. Nobody gives a damn if you agree with the host here. You get to speak your point. You don't get your time limited. You don't get any of that. And I don't talk down to my guests. Understand that. Looking in the comments. When was America great? I get that often from Shelly Styles is asking it this time. In regards to when was America great, I often repeat the same phrase. It depends on who you ask. A lot of folks believe prayer in schools, nuclear family, having dinner at the table with kids without phones and gadgets. A lot of folks believe that is when America was great. However, if you ask the question, when was America great for everybody in this nation? Never. It never was. All right, looking in the comments. It depends. It never was. Yeah. As a trucker, I've suffered since Biden. You know, I used to partake in the over-the-road industry. I was expediter within a van, and yeah, and it wasn't good during that time. But I got out of the industry because the pandemic slowed freight down. So I'd have to. I haven't been in it under the Biden administration, so I can't speak from that. Keeping it moving. Bad views. Yikes. Good afternoon. Program. Bad views. Let's see what your views are. Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Why do you believe the Republican Party has such an LGBT amount of hatred floating around? Or do you believe that?
Uh, there is some. I don't think there's a lot. I actually think there's more hate coming from the left. And maybe
Towards
not.
that community? You believe there's more
Um,
hatred coming from the left towards the LGBT community?
I'd say it's coming from specifically the trans activist, right? And I'd love to give an example here. So
Sure.
I've yet to find a lefty tell me that Riley Gaines. So Riley Gaines, who took second, right, against Leah Thomas in the
Okay,
swimming.
you're talking. What sport is this?
Swimming.
Okay, so this is a transgender male transitioned into a female that beat the females in
Well,
a swimming competition.
it's even worse than that. So this guy was actually he was on the man's college team for 3 years, ranked about 400 in the country, and then he switched his senior year and became an NCAA champ. And that's not the point. The point is when I ask these people, when Riley Gaines says that she felt cheated, these people do not think that her feelings are valid. You know,
I
and
get your point.
and I've And I want to touch on the Bud Light thing because I think we're missing something here. So
Sure.
personally, I don't think Dylan Mulvaney is trans. I think if you look at all of her content, she has spent her life, or his life, I will say, trying to get famous. And an example of this is I don't think a real trans person would be making videos talking about hiking hills and embracing the bulge. I personally, I mean, it's almost like
Is that what this
satire.
person said? I'm assuming you're talking about between the legs. Was that something really said by Mulvaney?
Yes, and they even add on. It's that they aren't even pushing just the trans stuff now. You got to understand that this person was an adult male who transitioned to a trans girl, which in my mind is a minor. So his following is largely minors, and so not only are they pushing the trans stuff now, they are now pushing alcohol. And
Wait a minute.
it,
I haven't heard all of this. You're telling me Mulvaney was an adult male that transitioned to be a girl, a child. Where are you getting this from?
this is how he identifies. You can go watch his content, you know, like, and not only that, you watch his content, he acts like a child. It's disturbing.
Well, I
I
mean,
don't think he's trans.
if that's the case, the late Robin Williams often acted in a childlike manner. I mean, a lot of adults. I mean, hell, I can be childlike a lot. I mean, I don't quite get where you're going with this.
Well, I mean, if his following is largely children, and they're advertising alcohol with him, who is he advertising to? I mean, they're almost, go ahead.
I'd have to see now the folks at Bud Light, whoever they hired for the marketing team. I mean, because now you're talking, now you're bringing kids and things like that in. So you believe that Mulvaney is truly harmful to children?
Absolutely. And I think if anybody that thinks otherwise, I don't think they've actually listened to Dylan. They're only listening to the trans activists about what they should believe about this stuff. And they
So
can't
let me
speak
ask you
out.
this. Let's take Mulvaney off the can of Bud Light and put another transgender that identified as an older woman. Would that, you think that would be a problem at all then?
It would be much better because I would assume that they would identify as a woman and not a child. And
Like let's go with Bruce Jenner or whatever. What is the name? Caitlyn Jenner now. If
yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner was on Bud Light can, that person clearly identifies as an old ass woman. Would that be okay?
I mean, I personally wouldn't agree with it, but you wouldn't see
Then
the
it's not
you
for
wouldn't see the
children then.
but you wouldn't see the pushback that we're seeing right now with the Dylan stuff. In my opinion.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know if if I totally agree with you, but I cannot disagree with you because Caitlyn Jenner is not on a can of Bud Light and probably never will be because Caitlyn Jenner was attempting to run for office as a Republican. I don't know how that was going to work out, but I do believe Caitlyn Jenner was trying to run for office as a Republican or sponsoring Republicans or something like that. So at the end of the day, you don't believe the GOP really has hatred towards this community at all.
Not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite because it's the GOP that there are some that are talking about banning it completely, right? But it's the GOP talking about, hey, you got to let these kids grow into an adult, let their brains form. And I think I have a solution. I think I have a solution for this. If we
Okay.
can allow, if we can allow these kids that have surgeries underage, and there's two of them so far that have filed lawsuits against these doctors. If they can be successful in suing these doctors, I think we will see doctors, maybe act a little more morally and not, based on how much money they're going to make.
Well, I think the abortion debate shows you what doctors will do. They're leaving the practice in some of the areas because when it comes to abortion, which is not really on topic, but the doctors now fear how some of these right-wing states are going to treat them if they abort a child to save the mom's life. The rules for abortion are becoming so strict that there are cases where the woman is literally in danger and they're forcing her to carry these kids. So some of the
I,
doctors, their responses have been to get the hell away from the profession.
I'd like to push back a little bit. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not a professional, but there's this thing called emergency C-section, right? So if the mother is in danger and the child is viable, why do we have to murder the child in order to save the woman's life? Why can't we remove the child and try to save both lives?
But that's the point I'm making. Some of these children are not viable. There was a woman in Louisiana that had a child in her that was still alive that was missing its skull that they knew was not viable. But the law did not allow them to terminate the child because it currently was still alive. So she had to give birth to a kid that's missing a skull.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely pro-life, and I would agree that should be able to be done. I guess my only question would be is like, did they know this thing? I mean, when did they know? And how long did they wait to perform the abortion? And maybe you don't have those answers.
I don't know if they aborted the kid at all. I think she had to give birth to it. But I think as far as when would they know, if your kid doesn't have a skull, that's going to be a very ugly ass ultrasound. I think that they knew the minute they looked in her stomach and could tell this kid is not developing right. But they knew she was carrying a child that was not going to survive outside the womb. But because it has a heartbeat inside the womb, they won't do anything until she gives birth, essentially just letting her have to give birth to a child and watch it die.
Yeah, I don't agree with that
Well,
myself, but
that's
yeah,
what about
and that,
I'll give you one more and we can continue on. But what about the child in Ohio, 10 years of age, sexually assaulted and impregnated by a full grown adult? Because of the law in Ohio, the parent had to drive the kid to a different state to terminate the pregnancy. Now, this is a viable fetus that could live. Do you believe if your innocence is taken at the age of 10, you should have to carry that to full term?
No, but I would like to add some context that we're missing here.
Sure.
So that girl was raped by an illegal. Okay, shouldn't have been here. Should have been deported. And
Okay.
if I remember right, they never even went into any doctors in Ohio to see if she would be allowed to have an abortion. They just assumed
But if
that.
you wait a minute, and that you may be, I'm not disagreeing with you, but if I got a 10-year-old that's been assaulted, and I know I don't want my 10-year-old carrying a baby to term, I don't want to have to sit down with a doctor and beg if they can or cannot do something. I'm just going to take them somewhere where they're not going to be asking all these questions, further injuring my child mentally, and just get the procedure done. You're saying they should have took the kid somewhere in Ohio and found out, which now means the kid could go and be turned away. Have a doctor tell him, I'm sorry this happened to you, but there's nothing I can do. Why put a 10-year-old through that?
See, I mean, I don't. I think a doctor would be smart enough to realize that a 10-year-old carrying a pregnancy. I mean, I would assume that is dangerous to her life. You know, the pregnancy going through it could be dangerous to her. So I mean, go ahead.
This is the problem of putting big government into the mind of a physician. So now physicians got to figure out some kind of way where they can work this pregnancy so that it'll get past politicians who have nothing to do with the medical field. Because if I don't work this right, the politician may throw me in jail and take my career away. For folks who are against big government, this sounds a hell of a lot like the opposite, don't you think?
I don't, and I'll tell you why. So I see abortion as like probably the strongest wedge issue in this country, and I think the left wants to keep it that way because if it were to become legal through let's say, so it goes back to the states, and eventually all 50 states have ballot measures on abortion, and they all vote to legalize it. The debate is over. We don't need to talk about it anymore, and
But
I think the left is terrified of that.
we know for 100% certainty that condition that you just described will never happen. If it goes before a vote, there are states that are going to definitely outlaw it. Some with no exceptions in any case. So we know it'll never be legalized in every state unless it's done federally.
Well, I think it could be done in every state just with a ballot measure. I mean,
It's not.
which states' populations? Which states' populations? Because I'll tell you, I live in Utah, and I think people they'll tell you they're pro-life, but when it comes down to it, they're going to go in the booth and they're gonna vote to legalize it.
If you're telling me that if Alabamans, Mississippians, Louisiana, you think they're going to go on the ballot and they're going to legalize abortion in those states if you gave it to the voters? You really believe that?
Uh, I kind of do, actually.
Then why aren't they protesting with their government? Basically, if what you're saying is true, then you're suggesting that the governor of Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi are actually going against the will of its own citizens. I'm not hearing that.
I understand that, and I think it is because a lot of these people that say they're pro-life that might actually be pro-choice, like myself. When I think about the process of what happens when the tools are required to do an abortion, when I know the process, I can't support that. I don't like it.
I get the point. But here's why I disagree with you. And by the way, folks, tap the screen, get your boy up to 60,000. You know what this is. MAGA friendly all day, every day. Now, the reason I totally disagree with you is because the politicians are not just going against the will of the people. They're telling you what they're going to do before they even run for election. Such as President Trump on his CNN town hall just last week on Wednesday was asked, would you sign in the law of federal abortion ban? He didn't even say no. So you know if you're voting for President Trump, there is a possibility that he may impose a federal abortion ban. He didn't come out and say anything about handing it back to the states or anything. He said we'll give it up to the will of the people, indicating that if the people want a federal abortion ban, I will definitely sign it. So you noticed even before he becomes president that he is capable of it. Mike Pence has said it also. Mitch McConnell has said it also. And Lindsey Graham said 15 weeks or something like that was what he was seeking. So you're talking states' rights, but all of the key members or a lot of the key members of the Republican Party are making it clear we want to do this on a federal level.
I would like to know. He also didn't say yes. And I do think there is. I do think there is a common ground. There needs to be a common ground if we're going to do it federally, because right now the left, they'll say it never happens. It never happens. But these late term abortions do happen, and when you push them on it, eventually they will say yes. It's okay for a perfectly viable baby to be aborted in the 8th month.
Well, let's
That's
take
where their stance
your
is.
in regards to your response that he didn't say yes. If you had a liberal being asked, do you intend to take away everybody's guns? And he gave the exact same answer, where he didn't say yes or no. He said, I'm going to leave it up to the people. The NRA would be all over him because he's leaving it open to the possibility he's going to take away everybody's guns. I mean, the way Trump answered that question, no, he didn't come out and flat out and say, I'm going to take away I'm going to give you guys a federal abortion ban. But by not saying no, he makes it clear that under his watch, compared to virtually any liberal that's running, you are more likely under President Trump to get a federal abortion ban than any liberal running for office, because they would all answer no to that. So the fact that
Well,
he didn't answer says a lot by itself.
I mean, he shared his personal opinion on abortion in that town hall, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, he did say rape, incest, health of the mother.
He didn't
Do you
say
think that?
no. You could say all of that, and I don't disagree with any of that. But at the end of the day, he didn't answer the question by saying no. He didn't answer the question by saying we'll leave it up to the states. He left it open to a potential federal abortion ban.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I just
Yeah.
happen to believe that. I mean, I don't see him. And when they say abortion ban, like, do you think they're talking about from conception?
That's the problem, because he didn't say no. You don't know what he's talking about. You're left to assume. Just like if a liberal answered a gun question like that, you don't know what they're talking about. They didn't come out and say, no, I'm not going to impose a federal gun ban. So it's left up to you to assume where they may and may not go. So we don't know. All we know is that it may not be good.
Let's try to find the middle ground here. What do you think could be a federal law that would get 60 votes in the Senate? Do you have any ideas?
I do believe if you legalize abortion up to, say, the middle of, what is it? First trimester is what, 3 months? Second trimester, it's the second trimester when people start to really fall off. Even liberals, when you start talking second and definitely all that third trimester shit. Trump talked about abortions after the kid is out of the womb. That stuff is ridiculous. But
Wait,
I'd
whoa,
say
whoa, whoa, whoa,
anything.
whoa. I got to push back because you did see that the guy that was running, like, he did talk about it. Have you seen that radio show where they talked about the kid will be delivered and then he'll be made comfortable and a discussion will be had and we'll make a
No.
decision? Have you seen that?
I heard about it. I'll just say this in regards to that. There are between 500 to 750,000 abortions in this country per year. When you start talking about children that have been given birth, the umbilical cord has been cut, and as you say, made them comfortable, and they're debating whether to take the child's life. I don't even think that's happened to 10 kids in America. I have never heard of that happening to anybody. Certainly nowhere near enough for that to be coming up at a presidential town hall. That's making a bunch of shit out of something that doesn't happen. I've
I, I- but,
never
but
heard of that.
But that was said by the Democratic nominee of a state. So I don't know if you can say that, because there are people on that side that are running for office that do believe in this stuff.
Well, you
No,
got guys that you got a guy in North Carolina that talked about executing mothers that have had an abortion. So I mean, there's going to be extremes. I get it, but that's not the overwhelming majority of the Democratic Party. I'm talking like 99% do not support terminating the life of a live baby that has come outside of the womb. And I think 99% is an understatement. It's probably 99 point something else. It's that high. Nobody's going to support that.
I mean, you may be right, but I find these issues, especially abortion, when there's no middle ground, it impacts other topics and it divides us. And until that's fixed, this country is, I mean, it's in a bad shape if
Here's what
if
I
this
don't
is
get.
happening.
Here's what I don't get. I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word. You explain this to me. This is what I don't get. We're complaining about what the hell's going on at the border because all these folks are coming in this country. Folks would suggest we don't have the jobs, we don't have the resources, we don't have the entitlements to take care of all of these foreigners coming in this country. And these same folks that are complaining about that are okay with a banning abortion, which is going to create hundreds of thousands of unwanted children, which are going to need the same entitlements they're complaining we don't have. Can you explain that?
Uh, well, this is the thing about the border is conservatives want to do the e-verify, which essentially I think would be
That
beneficial
ain't what I'm talking about.
to.
That ain't. I get what you're saying. You want to verify people that's supposed to be here. I'm not in favor of letting people in the country that don't legally. We're not even debating that. I'm just simply saying if we don't have the resources to take care of people, why would you pass an abortion ban? It's going to create a lot of unwanted people. It's not like these women that are being denied the right to have an abortion are going to turn into mother of the year. They've told you they don't want the child. You're forcing them to have it anyway, which means it's going to often go to adoption, safe havens, or even the foster care system. All of that costs money. If we can't afford new people, why pass a law that literally creates a problem you've already admitted you can't take on?
Well, I'll say this and I'll go. Like I don't. When people argue um, abortion because the child's life will be difficult, I find it as a bad argument, and it's kind of gross. I think when people say, "Well, their life will be hard." I'm sorry, but life is valuable, and a hard life is better than no life. And with that, I guess I'll get out of here.
Come on back anytime. Bad views. You didn't. I enjoyed talking to you. Come on back. All right, looking in the comments. An abortion ban will uh, never get voted on. Let's be serious. Illegals are unknown, much different. I don't know where you're going with that, Heather. Definitely a friend of the program, but there's no denying, no matter how we look at it, if you get an abortion ban, which several states have successfully already achieved, it's going to create children that people do not want. Now, like I stated before, we have between 500,000 and 750,000 pregnancy terminations in this country every year. Now, liberal states, abortion is still legal. Nevertheless, there's no denying that because so many states have banned abortion or placed great limits on it now, there are going to be children born to mothers that don't want them. We used to have 500,000 and 750,000 abortions. Let's say it goes down now to 300 to 400,000. So you're still talking maybe a couple 100,000 children that are born to moms who do not want them. Those children will need access to welfare, foster care, other entitlements that cost money. We're constantly trying to reduce the amount of Americans that receive entitlements. This is a ban that creates more people that will need it. Now, my last caller talked about, it's a bad argument to say that this person's going to have a harsh life. I get that. That sounds great until you get what you want. And I will submit to you that the abortion ban, rolling back Roe versus Wade, is going to be the Republican version of the dog actually catching up to the truck and now looking around like, shit, I didn't know I could actually catch this. What should I do? When all of those entitlement bills start coming in and you got to vote on that stuff, what are they going to do? Because this is not going to make moms become more responsible. You're just going to have more kids on welfare. And they don't like that. So what are we going to do in the future? Because this is a problem that is guaranteed to arise. Looking in the comments, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 70,000 likes. I would appreciate that. They'll vote it down, of course. Yeah. Republicans are pro-birth. Yeah, but they're not pro-assistance for anything after that. So let's say a mom that would have had a couple abortions or whatever now has these children, or a mom is having children that she cannot afford, and they're going on the system, going on the dough. The Republican Party is going to want that mom held responsible. Very similar to what we do now to fathers that are having children they cannot afford. A lot of folks want those dads thrown in jail, force them to work, go after them, punish them. That's going to happen to moms. If you're irresponsible and you're having children you cannot afford, you can be certain that there are going to be Republican legislators who are pissed off with the amount of welfare applications coming in. They're going to suggest some sort of punishment to the mom that's having a child, up to and including a potential call for sterilization. That's going to happen, guaranteed, because right now they're only focused on maintaining the sanctity of life and making sure these children are born. They have no plan at all for what happens once the child is actually on earth, breathing and living and needing food, shelter, and water. No plans at all for that side, even though what they've passed guarantees they will have to deal with that. It's coming, no doubt. Looking in the box, both parties say things to get their party riled up, then stop before it happens. Willie G, that doesn't apply to the abortion debate. They didn't stop. They have not stopped. In fact, you now have several states in the union that have abortion bans, and when you listen to the key members of the Republican Party, they're talking about federal bans. So they haven't stopped in this case. They got the states' rights. Most Republican states that want an abortion ban have started to get what they want, and they're still talking about a federal ban. They're still fighting to literally ban the drug that's used to have an abortion. If you ban that drug, now you're already entering the realm of federal. They're not trying to ban that drug in Republican states. They went to the FDA to ban that drug nationwide. That is the beginning of a federal abortion ban. It's already happening right in front of you. Now, I understand, before I go back to the box, because a federal abortion ban is unpopular with a lot of Americans, it can hurt them at the polls, see the midterms. The last thing Republicans want to do is yell out, I want a federal abortion ban. It's toxic before elections. So what you do is you say you want states' rights or something like that when the goal is a federal abortion ban. But you're not going to have them come out and say that because it's not beneficial right before an election. But when you start interviewing these folks like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Mike Pence, and now Donald Trump, they're telling you. They're literally telling you they want an abortion ban. If you don't believe what you're hearing, then that's up to you. Looking in the box, will keep it moving. Move the Tuxedo Cat. Welcome to the program. Appreciate you folks who aren't tapping the screen, trying to get 70,000 likes. This is and always will remain a MAGA friendly program, but liberals are welcome. Move.
What's
Good
going
afternoon.
on, man? What's up?
I don't know, but I can't get these folks to tap the damn screen here. Their thumbs are lazy.
Oh,
What do you
my
think?
thumb's
Now,
falling off at this point, man. I'm sorry. I did it for you, though.
it helps the algorithms. It always brings in more MAGA, which are the preferred guests. But the
Yeah,
main question we were asking before we deviated off to abortion was, why does
yeah,
the GOP have such hatred towards the LGBT, particularly the T part of that? Why do they have such
yeah.
a large amount of hatred towards that community? Or do you see
They
none at
need,
all?
yeah. I mean, they need to keep feeding their voters people to hate, so that they don't look at their politicians and realize how bad they've been fucking them for all these years, right? So they have to give them the LGBTQ to hate, minorities to hate, because if they don't give them people to hate, they're going to turn around and be like, oh my God, these fuckers are cutting my Social Security. They're cutting my Medicare. They're cutting all my benefits for my kids in school. So, yeah, no, keep hating the LGBTQ, keep hating the black people, keep hating the Jewish people, because that's what we want you to do.
But what about folks who would suggest that under, say, the Trump administration, for example, they did much better financially? That they, because you're saying they're throwing hatred as a diversion so folks don't notice other stuff. But most folks on the right believe they were doing well under Trump.
I mean, I'm sure the tax cut gave them an extra $100 or $200 in their paycheck. Don't worry, folks, that's going away shortly. I mean, they're full of shit, man. You know what I mean? They're not doing any better or worse because, I'm not doing any better. Listen, I'm a regular middle class person, okay? If my life has not drastically changed because the president is different, then your life has not drastically changed. I guarantee you're all sitting in Alabama, Texas, without your shoes, without your teeth. You're doing the exact, except you're not drinking Bud Light now, right? You're doing the exact same bullshit you did when Trump was president as you are when Biden's president. You're all just full of shit.
Well, you can't stereotype my viewers as sitting around with their shoes off. Be nice, come on now. But
Nah.
no possibility at all. But the price of fuel, the price of goods and services, the inflation
I've
rate.
already told you, my man. I've already told you inflation's going to go up regardless. You're operating on a fiat currency, and you've been taking loans with interest from a centralized bank for years now. There is no coming back from the inflation. You could put Trump in there. You could put Donald Trump. You could put Donald Duck in there. It doesn't matter. You're not coming back from this inflation.
So you don't believe it. So in other words, what you're saying is it doesn't matter if Trump or Biden is in office. It's not going to make a
Correct.
difference with the economy at all.
Correct. Correct, because they will raise the debt ceiling, right? Which is us, our government, taking a loan with interest from the Federal Reserve, and you can never pay that back. You can only accumulate more debt. So, folks, I got bad news for you. You could stick Bugs Bunny in the White House. He's not going to drop inflation for you.
Then why vote? If you're making it sound like the president has nothing to do with the economy, I don't think anybody believes that. Then why vote based on what you're saying?
What the president doesn't determine how much currency is in circulation. The Federal Reserve does that. The
Yeah, but
president
there's a
has very
host of
little to do with inflation.
yeah, but
The
there's a
only
host
thing the
of things.
president has to do with inflation is encouraging them to raise the debt ceiling so that we take another loan with interest from the Federal Reserve. That's what the president does for inflation.
So he doesn't do anything for gas prices either.
He could set some pricing controls like FDR did if he actually wanted to help the American people. But if you think Trump's actually going to do that too, then you're also nuts. Biden's not going to do that, and Trump is definitely not going to do that.
Well, let me give you Trump's response at the town hall. He was asked about fuel prices, and his response was simple: drill, baby, drill. If Trump started drilling to produce
Uh-huh.
more fuel, you don't think that
Uh-huh.
would affect fuel prices in this country at all?
Biden's already started a drilling project in the Arctic. Good game, guys. It didn't affect your fucking economy one way or the other. Good game.
So I go back to the original question, though. If Trump drilled and produced more oil than
That he's
Biden,
drilling in the Arctic, you buffoons.
if Trump drilled and produced more oil than Biden, would that make a difference with the economy?
No, it's not going to. First of all, you're not going to. Listen, the days of ruling the earth via oil, those are gone. Okay? The oil is going away. You're not going to be able to keep on powering things with oil. That's technology from the 18 fucking hundreds, and it's going away. The first person to master clean energy is going to rule the whole goddamn planet. And the
Are
first
we
person to
there
master,
yet for that, though?
You will
Is the
be. You will
technology
be very
far enough
shortly.
along to do that?
You will be. You will be very shortly. It's going to happen a lot faster than you think.
But what
Oil
about right
is
now?
done.
What about right now? Are we
Right
there
now,
yet?
you're screwed because you have a bunch of people taking campaign contributions. So no, unless you vote for people who don't take corporate campaign contributions, you are pissing in the wind.
Here, I got to admit, I have some differences with some of the things you're saying. First of all, in regards to drilling extra oil and you suggesting that won't make a difference, all of
Nope.
our goods and services in this country are transferred or transported around the country on vehicles using fossil fuel. If you can drop the
No, not
price of
all. That's
fuel,
ever decreasing, isn't it, though? That's ever decreasing. We even have Tesla coming out with a whole line of
that's not
self-driving
out
trucks
yet.
that don't use
That's
any
not that's
gasoline.
But that's in the future. That's not right
That is the
now.
future. It is happening now. They're starting to mass produce them as we speak. It's happening right now. Oil is old news. If you think oil is going to be the factor that keeps this country in business, you're very mistaken and you have no foresight.
If you had to estimate right now on the road, when we talk about 18 wheelers, when we talk about trains going from point A to point B shipping goods, what percentage of our goods in this country are shipped via electric vehicles right now? Not in the future, right now. What do you
Right
estimate?
now, probably not that many, but I guarantee you by 2025, the majority of your shipments will be done by self-driving vehicles that don't use gasoline anymore. It's
Three
going to
years?
happen.
Three
Yeah,
years? You
3 years.
listen.
That's right. 3 years. Yes, and truckers in the chat. In 3 years, you won't have a job anymore. Truckers, you won't have a job anymore.
I think you're way off on this, man. Not to say it won't happen in the future, but three
I mean,
years? No
you're
way.
not keeping up with. Listen, you're a politics guy. You're not a technology guy. You don't know what's happening right now, and I guarantee you, the vast majority of your audience doesn't either. They're going to be in for quite a shock. These Republicans for what's on the way. They
I
think
just
abortion is the debate. Wait for it.
The reason I'm saying that is because I was in the over the road industry. I know a lot of truckers still talk. 3 years, we haven't heard anything like that coming down the pipe. I still know truck drivers that own companies that are still buying diesel vehicles. You
I
have
hear
to
you,
wait
man. I hear you.
3
There's still
years.
people who don't know how to use a computer in your chat right now. There's still people who don't know how to use the internet in your chat right now. There's still people in Congress that don't know TikTok needs Wi-Fi. I'm not worried about those people.
Do
And I
we
can tell you
have
right now, oil is not your future.
I agree with the oil not being the future. I just don't agree with the 3 years. And I want to ask you this. In
Okay?
regards to electric vehicles, I ride electric bikes, electric scooters. In fact, I do that every week, and I love my e-vehicles. But range is a major issue with e-vehicles. Weather is too, but range is a huge issue. Do we
Yeah.
have e-vehicles right now that can do 14, 1,500 miles in a stretch like a truck?
You don't need to. You're going to have them within the next year because AI is going to make them for you. I told you, you have no idea what's coming. Your audience has no idea what's coming. Okay? When I tell you 3 years, it's gonna happen. Okay? You all have no clue how far along things are right now. I do. I'm using the stuff. And I guarantee you, in 3 years, Mr. Truckers, you're not gonna have a job anymore.
All right, you and
To
I.
over
All right,
200,000
fair enough.
people in the tech industry, over 200,000 people in the tech industry have lost their jobs since the beginning of the year. The great replacement has already started, and it's not people coming to take your job. It's AI.
All right, fair enough. I gotta move it on, but I gotta admit, you and I are like night and day on this. I believe that what you're saying will eventually happen, but not even close in 3 years. I can't even see it happening in 10 years to the degree you're discussing, but three is
Okay,
amazing. Three is
that's okay.
amazing. Hopefully you're
You
right.
will see. No
All
worries,
right.
you will see.
All right, fair enough. Moo, always a pleasure.
Have a good one, my dude.
You too, you too. All right, looking in the comments. 3 years. Wow, that would be fast. Do you realize how quick 3 years go? I mean, hell, Biden's been in office since what, January of 2021? So he's been in office now 2 years. I mean, that's fast. I can't see it. I just can't. Mahalia, thank you for the heart. Appreciate the generosity. Mahalia, thank you. Maybe 10 to 15 years. Powerful. I can see that. I can certainly see 10 to 15 years. I do believe that. When you look at the rate of electric vehicles happening in this country, it ain't happening in no quick 3 year span. I mean, he mentioned Tesla and things like that. Who sent it? Wiley, thank you for that TikTok cap. 3 years is just too fast. I tend to believe that. An old girl with those lightning bolts. You guys are fairly kind. Thank you. All right, looking in the comments, Elon did say every day he is shocked by advancements. Yeah, but even Elon ain't doing it in 3 damn years. Even Elon ain't doing it that quick. All right, we're going to go back to the box. And by the way, somebody mentioned who can afford. That's another issue. How much in the initial phases will an electric semi cost? Because we know electric vehicles cost a lot. One that can haul goods, not services, but goods across the country like that? How much will those things cost in the beginning? Because it will continue to have an incentive to buy diesel stuff because it's going to be cheaper and cheaper. We'll keep it going, though. Andy, welcome back to the pro. 3 years. Wow, that's fast. Good afternoon, Andy. We were talking about hatred towards the LGBT community by the GOP. Do you see any of that?
Oh yeah.
Why don't they say otherwise? The GOP are known
Because
for
they
saying we
freaked
don't have
out
any.
over a beer can. It was one beer can made for her. Just one. And we got them acting like this.
What? Wait. You said one can. You couldn't go to your local grocery store and buy Bud Light with Mulvaney's picture on it? I think my caller got a caller. We'll give her a second. Here, dude, male. No human driver means no breaks for rest. Yeah, according to it, will be a very efficient way of transport. I don't know what it'll do to the jobs because there's a hell of a lot of folks that have a job in the trucking industry. But I suppose there will be money to be made on servicing the vehicles and things like that. But the AI portion, which my caller alluded to, that's frightening. Have you guys been watching the news on how fast AI is advancing? Not in 3 years, but it is advancing at a rapid and frightening pace considering the capabilities of it. They can literally they could do this whole damn live stream. They could use yours truly, the indeed handsome liberal. So they could have put a person on the screen that is handsome as I am, conduct this entire live, and would know the right questions and things like that to ask you folks based on my own mentality. That's scary. That is scary because I might ask you some shit that gets me in trouble. And it's going to be very difficult to explain to your girl, your kids or something that I didn't say that shit when you're on the screen saying that shit. I don't know where this is going to go, but they're probably going to have to end up using big government to pass some laws in regards to what you can do with artificial intelligence. Because you could literally create somebody and get contracts signed. You know, you could get the power of attorney and all kinds of shit based on what AI is capable of. So there's no denying this could take us down a dangerous path. They got to pass laws to get it under control because it is getting too powerful. I mean, you could literally do anything. I mean, you got women out there now. I just saw on The View earlier today, some chick is making $5 million a month, allowing dudes to talk to the AI version of her. Now, obviously, we know what the dudes are asking this woman. It's a adult content creator, I believe. But, I mean, really, we're going to all be single by the time this AI shit is done because at the end of the day, whether you're talking to a woman or a man, we all have things that we like about the opposite sex that would make us like them more if you could take these features away, such as, I wish she didn't nag so much. Artificial intelligence is not going to nag. I wish she would do what I like and then let me go to sleep. Artificial intelligence will do just that. So once artificial intelligence kicks in, it's going to be a problem for regular procreation. It really will be. Hopefully they slow this shit down. All right, looking in the box. Electric Wolf 45. Welcome back to the program. We need Jesus, says Cleophas. You know, AI might have a hell of a thing to say about religion. I'd be curious to see what an AI robot or whatever the hell, start asking them about Jesus and see what they say, because AI is going to go real scientific on you. We are overpopulated anyway. I don't know about that. As an over-the-road driver, I've been through vast stretches of Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas. Really, the middle of this country, if you go from Dallas to, say, Albuquerque, you could draw a line straight up. Dallas to Albuquerque. The space in between those two cities, you could draw a line all the way up to Canada. Most of that shit between there is empty. All of the states, all of the shit that's in between Dallas and Albuquerque, drawing a line straight up. There's not a lot between it. Now, you might have Oklahoma City in there somewhere, but most of that stuff is pretty rural and wide open. I don't know about the overpopulated thing. I really don't. It's not a matter of space, but of resources. Well, Pookie. Okay, all right. Well, in regards to resources, most of that stuff can be artificially created. I mean, if you could turn a city like Vegas, which was nothing but flat out desert, into a sprawling metropolis, the technology has been there for a long damn time. You could make agricultural, you could do everything you needed to do to turn a lot of that area into the resources you're talking about you need to make it livable. You don't need a lot of resources. Fact is, us Americans are pretty harsh on the environment. We demand a lot of shit, but when you look at the Native Americans, they had no problem living in that area. The resources are there if you just treat the shit right. The resources are already there, and with technology, we could certainly make that area far more livable. Looking in the comments, if they could pump more ocean water into the desert, you could make it rain places that need the rain. Yeah, I mean, there are certainly ways to make that space between Dallas and Albuquerque, which does include some desert on the western side of that, but between Dallas and Albuquerque, all the way up, I guess that would include probably Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. Kansas is pretty rural, so is Nebraska, but there is plenty of farming land out there, plenty of land that could be used for whatever you need to use to make it productive for maintaining humanity. It can be done. There's a lot of open space in this damn country. It could be done. We obviously don't want to do it because it would be a cramper on our lifestyle, but that land is usable. Stay off our lands, Vin. Globalists want to control natural resources. Major reason for wars and conflict. Yes, so is religion. All right, going to the box. Right libertarian guy. 2.0. Good afternoon. Welcome back to I don't know what's going on with my callers. There we go. Libertarian guy. Why does the Republican Party have such a hatred towards the LGBT community?
So
Or do you not see that?
I don't think it's necessarily a hatred.
Dislike?
For it to be hatred, there would have to be malintent. I think it's more of a misunderstanding.
What do you
Hold
mean by
on,
misunderstanding?
let me mute myself. I think I was getting an echo.
All right, while he's doing, I'm looking in the comments. We don't hate you. We just love God. What's the difference? If God tells you that we're sinners and we're an abomination and we're going to hell, talking about the LGBT community, what's the difference between that and hate? It's the same thing, isn't it? If you're suggesting that God is directing you to hate the community, it's the same thing. Libertarian guy, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me? Is there an echo?
No, you're loud and clear. Good.
Okay.
Now, what were you saying?
Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily a hatred. For it to be hatred, there would have to be malintent. I don't think there's malintent there. I think there's not understanding and just you could say like an adverse reaction towards it.
Here's what I mean. You don't want LGBT around children. You don't want them on TV. You don't want them in movies. You don't want them having public gatherings. What would be the difference between that and hatred?
So let's go down the list. First, you said we don't. Well, I'm not a Republican, so I can't speak for the GOP on that.
Yeah, you know,
But I can give my assessment.
we'll go down the list. They have a belief that any LGBT interaction with children is harmful to kids. How do you
So
explain it?
I would disagree that just any interaction with somebody from the LGBT is a hazard to kids. I think certain aspects don't need to be talked about with kids. Certain things don't need to be around kids. Stuff like that. But I don't think just
Would you have a problem with a transgender child in elementary school that has her own second grade class?
What do you mean?
A transgender teacher, a teacher that was born a male, that is now identifying as a female, that is the teacher of a second grade classroom. Is there an issue with that?
So I wouldn't have an issue with it, as long as they're teaching, like math, history, arithmetic, these type of things. I think where most of the adverse reaction comes from is when, and I'm not even going to say a majority of them, when the loudest of them uh, that are not doing that and are, going off that course to pursue whatever it is they're trying to get out of it. I think that's where the adverse reaction comes from. And because they're the loudest, like, I don't think that most people that are trans or gay or lesbian or bisexual are doing this. I think just because it is the loudest of them that may be doing this, uh, it makes it
Well,
seem like it's
I, I I
a
think
larger problem.
that you're probably going to get more audio from transgender in regards to them being the loudest because they are also the ones that are the most oppressed. We have become accustomed or okay with gay people being on TV. Now, there was a time when they couldn't be seen either, but we've come to a point since Obama legalized gay marriage that we're no longer adverse to the sight of gay people. But back in the day, holding hands, two dudes holding hands in a city park could have got them a fine. But we've gotten past that. So they're not as loud as the transgender community because they're not being oppressed to the same level. Nobody cares about a gay guy reading a children's book to a classroom. They do care about a transgender guy doing it.
So the thing is, and I hate using the term community because these are individuals that the only thing they have in common is either, who they're attracted to or what they identify as, and I don't consider that a community. But within the LGBTQ, the I think the adverse reaction is when it's being pushed onto kids, or things that should not be discussed with kids is being discussed with kids. I think
Give me
that's
an
where it comes from.
example. Give me an example of how the transgender lifestyle is quote unquote pushed on the children. What are they doing to lead you to believe it's being pushed on kids?
So it's very prevalent in media. Um, Actors, mu- maybe
Okay,
musicians. I don't listen
so
to a whole bunch of music, so I can't speak on
yeah,
that
but wait a
portion
minute.
of
Let's
media.
let's go with let's go with it being prevalent in media and things like that. Pistols, guns are prevalent in media. Do you think we're pushing guns on kids?
So no, but there's a difference when things are blatantly just trying to push a message, and when things are in there to serve a purpose to the plot. Like, I have absolutely no problem, and this is me being, like a film junkie and everything. I have no problem if the main character happens to be a woman, or happens to be gay, or happens to be trans. Uh, but when it's blatantly just uh, to include them for inclusion's sake, it tends to make the art. Uh, it tends to
What do you mean
sacrifice the
by
art
what do
to
you
that.
mean by what do you mean by include them for inclusion's sake? If you're doing a show, this is something people used to say about the television show Friends, where it was based out of New York and they had no black actors, no black, and folks would ask, how could you have no black people in a city like New York? When you say inclusion for inclusion's sake, transgender people are around us. So if you do a sitcom or something that's in an urban area, there's a good chance somebody may be gay or transgender. It's not including them for inclusion's sake. That's what diversity is all about.
Yeah, no. So what I'm saying is, for example, you can take the show Batwoman. The source material, there's a great story behind this character, uh, but they made the forefront of the show just the fact that she was black and lesbian. Which, if you're black and lesbian, that's fine. I don't care. I couldn't give two shits. But they put the story on the back burner to thrust that up in front. And, like, as far as movies go, that's where I have the issue, is when the art is sacrificed at the expense of checking a box.
Well, if you are black and lesbian or black and gay, as you put it, they do need to have shows they can watch, right? I mean, that's kind of why BET television was created, because that applied to black folks for a long time, is that they were excluded from TV. You know, for folks who may have said the same thing you're saying now, you don't need to be pushing black folks in our face all the time. They only represent a small percentage of the population. So if you were black, there was nothing to watch that you could identify with. So if you are a African American lesbian or whatever you're pointing out, they have no television. If we do what you're suggesting, don't put them in shows for inclusion's sake and things like that, they would find that there's none of us on TV.
Well, see, I think you're misunderstanding me. Like, I don't think the most important thing of you is that you're black or straight. I think you have some good ideas, some ideas I disagree with. You're good to talk to. Uh, we can leave the
Appreciate that.
conversation disagreeing and not hating each other. These are characteristics that I value. Your skin color isn't one of them. Uh, so that's what I'm saying they're doing the adverse of within media is they're putting the skin color or the sexuality or the gender identity before the actual character, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I get your point, but that's easier to say when everybody on television is your skin color. And I'm gonna ask you this: have you ever heard of? It's all over YouTube called the doll test, the DOLL, the doll test. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Well, what the doll test is, it was done in the 40s and 50s, then it was done again in the 80s, where they put a child in front of three different dolls. All of the dolls were the exact same doll, but one was white, one was Hispanic, and one was dark black. And they would ask the child, which is the evil doll? Which is the happy doll? Which is the doll most adults like? And they asked this of Hispanic children, black children, and white children, all in the early elementary school age. And virtually all the children gave all the positive accolades to the white doll and all the negative accolades to the black doll. The reason I'm bringing this up is there were, even for a person like myself that grew up in the 70s and 80s, there were no black role models on TV. If you watch the cartoon, the astronauts were white. All of your prominent figures on the sitcoms and the television shows, everybody for the most part on TV that was successful, all of the good images of life were white. So even though you're saying I don't identify for skin color and things like that, as a child growing up, when all of the superheroes and everybody is white, you could be subliminally teaching that child that white is better than black because all of my heroes are white. There's nobody I identify with. None of the toys I play with, none of this stuff is black. It's all white. So even though you're saying we don't go by skin color, that's a hidden or somewhat of a message that children can get without even knowing it. You're not even trying to teach them racism, but you're all your images that are positive are white, and it's subliminally seeping into the child's head like that. That's why I say you need to have something on TV that you can identify with. Otherwise, you'll be like one of those children. And by the way, if you just simply go on YouTube and type in the doll test, you can actually see them running that test. I mean, it's right there in front of you.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that before I speak on that specific portion of it. But I hope you're not getting me wrong. I'm not saying that, you know, people, black people, gay, uh, trans, they shouldn't be in media. I'm saying that shouldn't be the reason they're in media. Like I said, if, the being trans or gay or black or Hispanic or Asian is an attribute of the character,
Yeah, I
so
mean, like
be
you
it.
could have you could have a
But
Law and
not
Order.
the
You
whole
could have
character.
yeah, you could have like a Law and Order episode where a gay character was attacked because of their because of their LGBT affiliation. I mean that would feature a trans or feature a gay character. I mean, I see what you're saying, but
Yeah,
I,
and that's fine because that's important to the story. But when it's, that aspect is not important to the story, but that's the main focus, I think that's where the art suffers.
Fair enough. I do got to move it on, but I always see interesting comments. I want to ask you this. This is in the comment section. I'll let you answer it any way you want. But you see a comment like this. We were talking about black and white and things like that. Don Walker in the comments stated, "I would give up a bucket of KFC to be black." How do you respond to that?
I think that's going based off of an
Take your
old-fashioned
time.
stereotype,
Yeah, yeah.
and I think that's the antithesis of what I'm trying to put out. Um, and if you
Is
think
there any
white
chance
people
at
don't like
all
fried chicken, get the fuck
Is
out
there
of here.
any is there any chance at all, even a slight possibility, that Don with a statement like that might actually be intolerance towards a certain community? Any chance at all?
With that, and again, this is tech, so I can be wrong about this. I will never stray away from the possibility of me being incorrect on something. Um, it seems like that was directly meant to solicit a specific type of response, uh,
What
and
type
it
of
was meant
response
with
would it solicit? What type of response would a comment like that solicit?
uh, anger, an emotional response, um, and I feel like the intent was to slander a community of a specific skin color with a stereotype. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And that is not the message I am trying to put forward.
Appreciate you coming through. Got to move it on, right? Libertarian, always good to
No
talk to you,
problem.
man.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Wrap it up.
Um,
Go for it.
just in regards to the last person that was on talking about electric and all that.
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, we're not going to see that in our lifetime. Have you ever driven an electric car? They kind of suck. Um,
No, no, I have not. I want one. I can't afford one because you guys ain't tapping the screen like you should. But uh,
and I
I,
will
you
say
know,
this.
I I
Um,
own I own an e-bike. I own an electric scooter. In fact, I was on my scooter yesterday. You know those little stand-up ride share scooters. But I got a beefy one that'll do 40 miles an hour. So, and I'm a big dude, so that means that scooter has a lot of power. I can do up to 40 miles an hour for 40 miles, and that's on an electric vehicle. So, I like them, but they are very pricey right now. I mean, the lithium technology, the batteries. I can't see it in 3 years. I really can't.
yeah, no, that's not happening in our lifetime, and I'll just proposition you with this. You have to charge electric vehicles, correct?
Yeah.
Where do those chargers get their power from? Because
Well,
solar isn't strong enough to power that
actually,
consistently.
solar. You're right. Solar panels do not put out enough to charge it, but solar panels could get you a long ass way. The point I'm trying to make is they need to come up with some form of technology that promotes most American roofs to be made out of solar producing material because there's a hell of a lot of roofs in America that do not have panels on them. If they could come up with some kind of way of a shingle, a roofing shingle that incorporated that in there. If all of the roofs in America were capturing solar energy, you might not be able to power 100% of the shit you're using, but it would go a long ass way. And I do
Yeah,
believe a whole roof full of solar panels devoted to charging one car overnight could get it enough to probably get you to and from work every day.
yeah. I'll put it this way though: the in order for you to charge your vehicle, that power has to come from somewhere, which is generally going to be an oil based system. So you're still using oil, even though you're using an electric car, and it's actually better for the environment to actually drive a '69 Camaro than it is to drive a brand new Tesla.
Listen, some of that I gotta admit that type of knowledge is above my pay grade, and I will tell you without a doubt, some of our pushback on alternative energy is coming from big oil. Big oil certainly has people out there putting out bad rumors. Like you got Trump talking about windmills causing cancer. And I think he said if you go to a windmill, it'll be a bird cemetery below it because they're killing so many birds. Some of that stuff is coming from big oil because big
Oh
oil
yeah,
does not
100%.
want us to go to alternative energy.
Yeah, they have a vested interest in preventing it.
Right,
But the reason
right.
I say that is because that 69 Camaro already exists, and it's already on the road. So if you buy a used 69 Camaro, the damage to the environment is going to remain the same. So it's going to be a neutral outcome. As to where for um, a new Tesla to be built, all the cobalt mining and everything that goes into producing this, it has to be done to make this new Tesla. So it's actually adding a negative, uh, or sorry, it would be a positive damage to the environment.
Well, but
Not
all of
positive
that,
and is good,
yeah,
but
but the problem is the technology towards combustion engines has 100 years of research behind it. You got to give alternative energy a chance. I mean, it's not right now. Alternative energy is in its infancy, whereas combustion in fossil fuel stuff is 100 years old. I do believe, like the caller was saying, alternative energy will ultimately take over, but it's got you got to give it time. I mean,
oh
we
yeah,
went
eventually,
from
but not in three
alkaline,
years.
yeah, we went from alkaline to NiCad to now we're on lithium batteries. I mean, there may be another form of energy coming down the pipe. You don't know, but you can't just say, listen, stick to fossil fuel. None of this stuff will work because that is a fossil fuel argument. There are, I do believe there's a huge future for alternative energy, but you got to get
Yeah,
fossil fuel out the way.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think we need to maintain the fossil industry until we have the alternative energy or electric energy at a position where it is equal. We could say performance as fossil fuels, and then start getting rid of fossil fuels. I think
Depends
it
on
would be
it
an
depends on
absolute.
it depends on the application. For instance, when you're talking about a semi hauling goods all the way across the country, alternative energy got a long way to go. But when it comes to the average family automobile that gets you to and from work, most Americans that is 40, 50 miles a day or less, takes you where you need to go on the weekend. Electric vehicles are already there to meet that application. So when it comes to switching over to alternative energy, I would say in terms of the family sedan, we're ready to do that now. That is right now. But like aircraft, construction vehicles, maybe, freight trains and stuff like that, it's the long range stuff that fossil fuel still has the advantage. But if you're only driving 40, 50 miles a day in your car, you can you can use an electric vehicle. And if you got solar panels on your house, because you don't need to fully charge that car up every day. You're only doing 30, 40 miles a day with a car that has a range of about 200 or 300 miles. I would submit to you that if you got a roof full of solar panels, you may not have to really do much else to keep that car going. That's all
Yeah, I
you
will say
need.
that that will also be dependent on location because most people aren't
Yeah,
going to
of
be
course,
able
of
to put
course.
a
Yeah,
$10,000 charger on their house, and then also solar fit it. And depending on your location, will depend
yeah.
on the amount of chargers that are available, and as to where even in the most rural areas, you'll at least have a few gas stations. Um, so I think we need to maintain the fossil fuel industry until we get at a point of electric vehicle infrastructure that can sustain at the same level. And then, of course, you're always going to have your enthusiasts, like people that like to, take their cars to the drag strip and, stuff like that. And electric cars, at least where they stand now and where I see them going, they'll never be able to match that performance, which that's
I
an entire
disagree. I
sector.
disagree with that. I disagree with that totally because if you have an electric vehicle, assuming you got enough power, it doesn't go from 0 to 60 in 2 or 3 seconds. It goes instant to 60. There's no wind up time. The power is already there on demand. Electric vehicles, in terms of the amount of power, will surpass the fossil fuels because there's no wind up time. It is already there ready to go. The only difference is obviously temperature and other issues play a part with batteries. But yeah, if you get in an electric vehicle and it's got the power, it can literally turn you into a rocket in terms of a car. I mean, to the point where the tires cannot even keep traction. I do believe, yeah, if you got an electric car, I don't think fossil fuels can hold a candle to it, assuming you got the right battery and the right motor in there.
So, do you think a Tesla would be able to uh, beat out a McLaren on the straightaway?
If you put the right motor in that Tesla, yeah, yeah, the right motor and the right battery, yeah, it could definitely do it.
Okay, I would disagree because there's always going to be the enthusiasts, and that's going to be an entire sector that you won't be able to get to convert.
Maybe
Because
so, but keep
generally,
in mind, like I said, the fossil fuel industry has had 100 years of development. They make vehicles like Ferraris and shit under fossil fuel that are meant for speed. They haven't even investigated that area with electric. They don't make cars, electric cars that can do 300 miles an hour. They never even done that. But I can guarantee you it's capable because hell, the little damn scooters I ride around on. They got little scooters that you stand up on that'll do 80 miles an hour now. Instant. From 0 to 80, instantly. They already got that in the span of a year or two, that stuff has gotten there. So it's the capabilities are there. They just haven't done it yet.
yeah, and then I'll also propose the aspect of maintenance, because to replace these batteries is extremely expensive.
All of that, yeah, I get that, but I mean, that's, we can come up with a million excuses why there's problems with e-vehicles compared to fossil fuel vehicles. Like I said, most of that stuff is funded by the fossil fuel industry, but it's in its infancy. You got to give it time to work itself out, as opposed to what we're doing. Is constantly shooting the e-vehicles in the foot and continuing to promote fossil fuel. That is slowing down because electric cars have been around for decades. That type of rhetoric is what slowed it down in the development process. And then, of course, big oil has the money to lobby the folks to continue stifling innovation. But we could have been much further along with this stuff a long time ago. Big oil, just like with big tobacco, they've done a hell of a lot with the money they have to promote their industry to last a lot longer than it should have. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I don't disagree with you, and I'm not against electric vehicles or Teslas. I actually really like Teslas. Um, I'm just saying that we should maintain fossil fuels until we get the electric vehicle industry and the electric industry to a point where it can be sustainable the way that cars are currently.
yeah, it will happen. Just like Obama came along and gave subsidies to make solar panels affordable. When Obama came along, 150 watts of solar energy was like $600. Now you can get it for under $100. Once you got the government subsidies in there, and people started buying this stuff in bulk, it's like with cell phones or anything else. When you bought your first microwave back in the 80s, you paid $500. Hell, I paid $500 for a DVD player back in the early
I did
90s.
too.
I
I
mean,
did too.
so yeah, so electric cars is in its infancy, but it is coming. It is absolutely coming. And it's, I don't know about 3 years, but I think under the Biden administration, most American car makers have already stated that as of what, 2024 or 2025, all of their vehicles are going to be electric. It's coming fast. Just give it, I don't know about 3 years, but it is coming fast. I think Cadillac and all of them, they're no longer even going to be making fossil fuel cars. All of their entire lineup in the next few years is going to be electric.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not against it. I just think we shouldn't scrap the old until the new is sustainable. Uh, I don't think we should, throw out what we have that's working now until we have
We're not throwing it
the
out. Nobody's throwing out fossil fuel vehicles. They're not throwing them out, but they are giving electric vehicles a fighting chance. Like somebody in the comments just stated, Jeremy said, unless Trump wins, because we know if Trump wins, he's going to set back alternative energy vehicles. I mean, as long as you give alternative energy vehicles a chance, maybe some government assistance with subsidies and things like that, that technology is coming. I'll give you the last word, though, Libertarian.
Yeah, so I'll just say we'll be there. Definitely won't be 3 years,
No.
but we probably won't see it in our lifetimes. But we will get there. It'll just be a road, and I'm with you. I'm against the oil industry intentionally siphoning this industry to prop themselves up. Uh,
Yep.
and I'm not for the government intervening within the natural progression of this industry. I'm against that. And in regards to the main topic, I think we just need to all remember that the loudest in the room doesn't represent the entire room.
Fair enough. Appreciate you coming through.
Appreciate you having me.
You too. I will say that, yeah, I do believe fossil fuel vehicles is the future, and I don't believe it's going to be outside of our lifetime. 3 years is pretty damn quick. 10, maybe not. I do believe it's going to be fairly quick. And I say this as someone who rides the little e-vehicles. I fly remote control aircraft. Been a flyer. I've been flying RC airplanes, jets, helicopters for about 15 years. And I fly all electric aircraft. And I can tell you from the time I started flying in the early 2000s, we were using NiCads. I think we went. There's another technology in between, but now it's lithium polymer batteries. And I can tell you the range of the aircraft we fly. Like, I fly jets now. They can do 70, 80 miles an hour that scream through the air. That stuff was not capable off of NiCad nickel cadmium batteries. The weight of the battery, the amount of energy the battery puts out could not do that. The batteries we are now using, those lithium batteries that are in cars, the amount of power per pound is significant enough that if you short the battery out, it will literally burst into flames. There is a lot of energy in a lithium battery, which is why you're hearing fire departments all over America speak at how difficult it is to put out an electric car fire. Because even while you're dousing it, the energy coming out will continue to start that fire over and over again. And I have actually had a couple of those things explode on me. So that is a problem, but nevertheless, I've seen the technology just from my own personal experience, how great battery life has been. The lithium batteries compared to, say, NiCads or your typical alkaline Duracells, not only is it a hell of a lot more power in a lithium battery, it's also lighter. Which now means it can go in applications like aircraft, make your car get more range and things like that. So give it time. It's not going to be 3 years, but it's coming, and it will be in our lifetime. Nevertheless, this is indeed a lunch break live. Appreciate you folks tuning in. 113,000 impressive likes. Thumbs were not lazy today. If you do enjoy civilized dialogue, generally from a MAGA-friendly audience, but liberals are welcome as well, follow the program every single day, Monday through Friday. We're here. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Catch you guys later.